Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a very special evening. We are discussing the controversial issue at Parks that happened on Tuesday afternoon in race 5 involving jockey Paco Lopez and the horse National Law. Now, I know everybody's been talking about this already. It's been about 24 hours since this happened. I am joined by special guest, Riders Up Tim. Tim, first of all, how you doing tonight? We'll
I'm
get your
doing
thoughts on this,
wonderful.
but
Enjoying the cold weather here in Kentucky as this Canadian front comes down and gets all of us frozen here. Yeah, I mean, I think this issue is big enough right now that I think we wanted to just talk about it a little bit and talk about a couple of our points of view and really just see what people are saying out there and get some feedback from everyone as to what they think about it, because it's obviously the biggest issue in horse racing over the last 24 hours.
yeah, we kicked around, something. We started talking about this obviously right after it happened. 'Cause it was instantly a controversy. Everybody posted it on X and Twitter, or whatever you want to call it. It was all over, and obviously a hot topic, especially with not just the animal abuse side of things, but the optics for horse racing as a sport and how we're always under attack. Anyway, if you haven't seen the clip, which I'm sure everybody has by now, let's just fire that up here and show you exactly what happened here. You can see this is after the race. This is Parks Race 5. You see Paco on National Law after the race and just whips the horse right in the face. I mean, that was just unacceptable to me. I'll jump right in. I mean, there's a close up of it. And again,
Yeah,
like,
and to set the stage there, Hombre. So coming down the stretch, National Law was in the lead. National Law was on the rail. The horse was extremely green. We're talking 2-year-olds here. I mean, come on.
yeah, maiden
So the
special
horse
weight
was
race. Yeah.
extremely green, goes all the way across the track. So was basically on the grandstand rail, which is where you can see the horse there. But here's the thing. I get it. And if you want to give Paco kudos for how he handled and whether or not there was danger to both him and the horse in the stretch, I won't argue that point. But this was past the line. And when you look at them past the line and you look at that video you just played, the horse is cantering. He has an outrider right in front of him. I see no danger to him or the horse at this point. So that kind of sets us up to where we're at and what happened.
And from my perspective, here's the most basic way I can see it. So I have dogs. I've always had dogs. When you're training a dog, and this is not me, I'm not a professional trainer. I'm not a horse trainer, a dog trainer, none of this. I'm just saying from I've had dogs all my life. If you have a dog and the dog is actively eating your furniture or something, that's when you discipline the dog. You don't come home from work 5 hours later and find dog shit on the floor and smack the dog in the face for that, because the dog doesn't understand what you're doing. You have to attack, you have to discipline, or whatever you're going to do, however you handle it. And there are different ways of discipline. We can argue that another time. But if you don't discipline the animal while it's physically doing the wrongdoing actively, the animal's not going to understand why it's being disciplined. And again, this is after the race was already over. Like you said, they're cantering. The race has been over for a good 10, 15 seconds at this point. And Paco, just purely out of jockey frustration. And to play devil's advocate, we talked about this for a minute before we started recording. I'm sure he felt in danger, because, I mean, I don't have the stretch run here on a video, but I'm sure he felt endangered by the horse. Probably very frustrated, scary, downright scary. I mean, you're riding 40 miles an hour on these horses. But I got news for you, folks. The only thing I can compare it to, and Tim, I told you this before we hit record, I used to race stock cars. And that's a dangerous sport too. And you can do everything you can, and if the asshole next to you makes a stupid move, and you're going in the wall with him, you know what I mean? You can't control that. What you can control is, and I would compare, that horse was maybe being the asshole other car in the scenario I'm driving here. The horse put him in danger when he didn't do anything wrong to begin with. But how he handled that was ridiculous. I mean, he handled it professionally during the race. And then the aftermath, it's kind of like Mike Tyson getting his ass beaten, biting an ear off after when he realized he was done. But that's just, we talked about this. One last point, Tim, and then I'll let you speak on it, because I know you're more knowledgeable in the general situation than I am. But I will say, it's animal abuse. We talked about it. I mean, if you walked up to a neighbor and the dog was barking at you as you're taking your dog for a walk, another dog walks up and barks at you, you can't walk up and hit the other dog with a baseball bat. I mean, you can't do that. You're going to jail. And I'm not saying Paco should go to jail, but I think Paco should have definite consequences. And if you don't give him stiff consequences, and I know the results are somewhat here, but I mean, that's anger management type stuff. I don't even know what to say.
Yeah, so let's look at a couple of things here, Hombre. So this first thing here, this is directly off the HISA website. I pulled this off today. This talks about crop use, when the crop can be used and when the crop cannot be used. We know that HISA has a track record of fining jockeys just for hitting the horse in extra time during the race, which are just the little normal taps on the rear end. You can see here when the crop can be used. And if you look down here at the very bottom, it says to preserve your and your horse's safety. So that's during the race. But if you look over here when it cannot be used, if you look at this, a couple up here, the third one up, it says during the post parade or after the finish of the race, unless you are avoiding a dangerous situation.
There was no dangerous situation.
At this point, I'm sorry, no matter what happened in the race, the dangerous situation was gone, in my opinion, and there was no reason to use the crop, and the crop cannot be used. So as a result of this, we get this today. We get a statement from HISA that come out and basically says that in response to the issue, that what they're going to do is do a provisional suspension of Paco Lopez from racing activities under all tracks under the HISA jurisdiction effective immediately. Now, this means that obviously they're going to review everything and go through the process, but until such time as the process is done, he cannot ride at any of the major tracks under HISA's jurisdiction. And there are a few he could, but the question is whether it'd be put on those. But this statement down here, I'm just going to read something here. We take any abuse or behavior that undermines the trust placed in our sport by its participants and fans with the utmost seriousness. So look, I think this kind of says it all right here. And HISA, they definitely came out and did the right thing in doing this suspension, because as you said, my opinion is this. It was out of frustration, maybe out of anger. And the only reason I say that, because I can't judge, and I wasn't there to see and talk to Paco, and I haven't gotten his opinion, but we all know that he has a history of this type of incident. So the history speaks for itself. There have been incidents with him before. And so some of the good things that have come out of this, in addition to the suspension, are even before the suspension took place, there were trainers and owners coming out saying that they were not going to ride him anymore. They've told all of their trainers not to ride him anymore. There were some of the big name trainers that took him off of rides they had coming up at other tracks. And this was before the suspension. Obviously, now that was a moot point anyway. But I just think that's the right thing to do, because you've got a guy here who has proven himself that right now, until this is resolved and we find out what's going on, you said something that I think is possibly something that has to be pursued. And we hear about anger management and people having to go through classes because of things that happen in society all the time. I don't think this is any different. I think if this guy is ever to ride again, in addition to whatever is handed down, I think he needs to go through that process, and people need to decide, is this somebody who even needs to be around these animals?
Yeah. And I mean, like, no matter what side of that no matter which side you take on that anger management thing, at the very least, it makes it a pain in the ass for him to think next time he's angry, even if he doesn't believe in anger management, which I know a lot of people don't. I question it. Like, I mean, how much can you change me? If somebody walks up and smacks me in the face, I'm going to punch him. I mean, like, that's just the person I am. And I think most people are that way inherently. But at the very least, if I have to serve something that hurts me or my family or something like that, like going to anger management and classes and paying these fees or whatever it takes, obviously this suspension is going to hurt him a lot financially. So, I mean, there's a lesson from that alone. But at the very least, like a anger management type thing would at least, I think, make him stop and take a minute before he does something like that again. And I'm the type of person, I'll be a dick, dude. I'd rather watch a human get beat than a horse. And that's pretty heartbreaking for me to watch. I can't watch. It's devastating for me to watch a horse get injured, like especially like a fatality on the track, which happens way too often in our sport. But even that, like just the smack on the head or smack on the neck, whatever it was, that was violent. That's violence, and I don't like it. There's no place for it in the sport, especially like I said, even if you're just a person who's looking at it from the optics side of like a sport that's battling against whether this sport in general is animal cruelty. This just sets you back. It's kind of like the Baffert argument, that is never ending with, just overall animal abuse. I don't want to get too deep in the weeds with that shit, but like, I mean, just this doesn't help anything. At the very least, he needs a big suspension. Put him through an anger management class. I mean, at the very least, like I said, it'll make people, men and women around the country and the world, think, well, if I do this, even if I'm fucking pissed, if I do this, I'm going to not only lose financial stuff, now I'm going to have to sit through all these stupid classes, even if you think they're stupid, waste of time. You still got to do it or else you're not coming back. And I'm a big believer in second chances, Tim. So I don't want to see the guy lose his career. He's a rider who's been around a long time. He's a well-known rider. He's been in big races. He's won big races.
Right.
I don't want to sit here and say, get this guy out of here for life, but fucking change, bro.
Right. Look, I would never say that about anyone or want to take away anyone's livelihood. But at the same time, I think it needs to be looked into to the point to where people can make a determination. Is this someone they want around their animals? Because you mentioned something that I've been thinking about all day. And I just wanted to say this. There have been a lot of people out there talking about some of the violations and things that have been happening at tracks and some of the jockey controversies and things. This is different, folks. Okay. This is way different than those. Look, tracks have been under severe scrutiny and things have happened with the breakdowns like Hombre was talking about and some of the things going on to the extent of Churchill moving their entire meet last year to Ellis because of the pressure they felt. And here's the difference. Accidents. Okay. Those are all accidents.
Nobody was doing that on purpose.
Nothing intentional.
Nobody.
This is different. It might
have been neglect or whatever you want to call it, but nobody was maliciously attacking an animal.
Absolutely. This is just egregious. It's unacceptable behavior. It is something that cannot take place in this game, in this sport. That we have enough problems in the sport and things that people want to address, but this is one of those things that I think the first step is underway. I'll be interested to see how it plays out. I would love to hear what people think. Please drop us a comment. Let us know what you think. We're just sharing a couple of opinions and want to talk about this issue because we love this game. And this is just one of those things that as we talked about it within our community here at Trust the Prophets, we couldn't tolerate it. And we just thought we wanted to get out there, see what everybody else thought, share some opinions, share some thoughts, and just get some feedback from our community.
Absolutely. Listen, I'll play devil's advocate for one last point and then we'll get out of here. But again, with Paco, he's, I know he's had some run-ins, like he's had some controversial things go down, but who hasn't as a jockey who's been around for a long time? I guarantee there's a horse player at every track who's like, this guy's an asshole, this guy's dirty, he's filthy, he's a cheater, about just about anybody in the country. Now, I know Paco's been around a long time for a reason. He's a fairly successful, whatever. You can say whatever you want. I'm not going to glow him up either, but I'm just saying. As devil's advocate, like, this is the first time I've seen him violent directly towards an animal. Doesn't make it okay, but, I believe in a suspension here and it's breaking ground, just like with Churchill last year. They realized there was a problem. Again, unintentional. The track tried to do everything the right way, probably after a little bit too long, but they fixed the situation by saying, okay, we got to stop. And that was, I guarantee they lost millions of dollars on that.
Right.
Millions.
And that's a great point. It hurt them in their pockets. And I think it needs to hurt Paco's pocket.
Yep. That's it.
Say that 3 times fast.
No, but I mean, like money is the reason why almost everybody is in this game. I mean, we all love the animals. Some of us just love the adrenaline of gambling. Some of us love the money. Some of us, there's 100 different ways to be in this. But at the end of the day, nobody would be racing horses if there wasn't a bunch of money involved. So, yeah,
Absolutely.
that's where you hurt the people that do something wrong. This guy deserves it. Just like I would compare it to the Trevor Lawrence in the NFL this past Sunday, gets that concussion, or I mean, that could have been a murder. Trevor Lawrence, if you didn't see it on the Jaguars, he was on a quarterback scramble, went down, sacrificed himself by sliding with his feet forward like you're supposed to as a quarterback to avoid a helmet to helmet, and the guy gets nearly decapitated anyway in the field, laid out there like a boxing event just occurred. He's out there fully knocked out. That could have killed him. I mean, it's a loose comparison, but it's a comparison. This is after the race, totally uncalled for and stupid. And that's I guess that's my point. Is this is stupid? There's no place for it in the sport, and I think everybody can agree on that. Now, what to do about it? I think we both laid out. I think we kind of agree here. I mean, he definitely deserves some pretty heavy-handed discipline here. I don't know. I don't want to see the guy I don't want to see him lose his career, but I mean, we got to make him think, make everybody think. I think he's got to be the fall guy.
Every jockey in the game just needs to know that that's not acceptable and you can't do that.
Yeah, and I mean, you don't see this that often, so I think everybody kind of understands that. But this is the first time I've seen it in a major way, at least in a long time, and it's unacceptable. Thanks everybody for joining. Trust the Profits. It's been a while for me. Riders Up, Tim, bringing it the heat as always with all the knowledge. Thanks, Tim, for joining, and we'll see you all later. Peace.